Welcome back to what is Baldy and the Blonde today, usually the Glenn Godwin Show. We're sitting in for Glenn today. We are in the middle of a fascinating interview with April Gallop, a woman who worked for the U.S. Army, was selected by the Pentagon to work there, top secret clearance, and was in the Pentagon with her young son on the day of 9/11 and exited onto the Pentagon lawn where there was no sign of a plane. We're going to play again Jamie McIntyre of CNN's interview on 9/11, CNN on 9/11, and so you can hear for yourself if you're just joining us his remark. From my close-up inspection, there is no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon, and that would be McIntyre of CNN on the day in question.
You know, it might have appeared that way, but from my close-up inspection, there's no evidence of a plane having crashed anywhere near the Pentagon.
There you go. And we also had another military officer. She was Karen Katowski, a Air Force lieutenant colonel, was there that morning, and she essentially said the same thing.
She has also been a guest on our show, and you can check it out on our past interviews, which are all available on baldyandtheblonde.com podcast section.
All right, before the break, where the interview left off with April Gallop is that April, you were there was an explosion. You rescued as many people as you could, or helped as many people as you could get out, including your infant son, and you exited through the impact hole out onto the lawn. But in between, there's some important information, and that is what you saw on your way out inside the Pentagon regarding a plane. What did you see?
I didn't see anything. I saw mostly debris, and I lost my shoes, and so except for one. I had one shoe left, so I was walking partially barefooted. You know, walked on some glass, but it didn't cut me too deep. But, you know, I would have never believed. Well, it was hard for me to believe because, again, we all, and it wasn't just myself, it was myself and other people. You know, we walked out and I didn't see anything. And then when I came outside of the lawn, like I said, I mean, you know, they've tried to talk about fight or fright, and they talk about, you know, the adrenaline. And then when you come to yourself, I came immediately, as soon as I got out in the light, it felt like a hammer had just hit me from my head all the way down to my body. And I collapsed on the lawn. And we were left here on the lawn for a while. And so while I was there, I was there long enough to kind of look around until we got triaged to the hospital, and I still never saw anything on the lawn that resembled a plane.
And when you said you walked through debris, did you see any debris that looked like pieces of a plane, or was it debris from the Pentagon building itself?
It was a building. It was computer pieces, keyboards, like office stuff.
Yeah. And those people that didn't get out behind you were killed?
You know, I believe so, at least in the area where we were, because, you know, people were stuck in between debris, the floors. And so, you know, it was hard to pull them. It was really actually literally hard to pull them.
Right.
You know, there was one guy in the group who had went back, and I haven't talked to him since that day. I mean, I don't know how successful he was when he returned, or if when he returned he got out. I tried to look for him, actually. But April, I know when we left, we just believed that there was no way they could have survived.
Do you know did you talk with any of your co-workers who also managed to escape as to whether or not they have the same opinion of you as you do, that there was no debris from a plane and no bodies from a plane?
Of course.
And have they come forward too?
No.
But has anybody tried to interview them, like, say, you know, the 9/11 Commission? In investigating this, did they take statements from people who support the position that you do?
Not what we know of. Now, we rotated. We meaning a lot of us, there's a process once you get hurt. And you have to go through this process to make sure an incident that's happened is you don't have any fault. So we had to begin that process, and we started the Pentagon Clinic. So we all had to go to Pentagon Clinic for our medical evaluations. And at that point, because we were all talking and, you know, people were talking about what they heard on the news and things of that such, a lot of things were not making sense for us as far as military personnel. And so then that's when I started going to the halls of Congress on my breaks during my medical evaluation. Half a day was for me, half a day was for my son for medical treatment. And we would go like lunchtime, take our lunch break, and say, hey, you know, something doesn't sound, you know, right about this. we need to try to facilitate a group of people. Now, we didn't know it was going to turn into a commission, but get some people to look into it to find out what are the actual facts. And that's really how it began, because we had so many questions, but they were not being answered.
And then
we couldn't get the police reports. We couldn't get generally, when there's an inquiry, it's a process. You get the police reports, you get the incident report, and you begin the person's evaluation to see if they had any part to do with it. But they waived all of that. And so, meaning they were not going to write anything. So they really couldn't answer any of us, like in a normal process. And
then is this what led ultimately to your filing of a federal lawsuit?
Pretty much, because, again, I was assigned to Jamie Girl. Eventually, through the advocacy of many people, we get this commission, and we originally believed, and all of us involved really believed that we were going to get the answers that we were looking for, because it just wasn't making sense to us. There was a lot of commitments made to us, a lot of organizations who had raised funds for the actual victims, and then we go and they say most of us are not eligible. Maybe 25 of the people were eligible, the rest of us wasn't. We were like, well, we were all there. It was so many things that happened that was absurd. So we thought, okay, this is going to happen. Questions are going to get resolved. Outstanding issues were going to get resolved, and then it turned into nothing. It really just turned into, to me, a lot of stonewalling and not really being specific, and then people were not required to, answer under oath. And I was assigned to Jamie Gorelick, so I was one of the people who actually got their questions put out in the public hearings.
Right, because Jamie Gorelick was a pretty aggressive member of the 9/11 Commission
right.
who actually asked some relevant questions.
Right. Those questions came for the military side now. Those questions had come from me. Every family member was assigned, not everyone, but they selected people who would be assigned to certain people. And so military was my specialty for as far as my level of knowledge of what I knew. And so the questions came, and again, I was there when they answered them, and they didn't answer them in the specific. Some of it was really yes or no. And so then we knew that it was just, we knew then that that effort was a waste.
Well, in April, I'm a lawyer, and I know that you have filed a lawsuit in this case.
Yeah.
And you did that because I suppose, I've read the lawsuit, and it's an incredibly detailed and I think a pretty amazing complaint. A lawsuit is called a complaint in federal court. And so we would like to talk with your lawyer also about that. But right before we get to that, I just want to ask you, as a military person, you're just as familiar, I suppose, as lay police with the fact that the evidence at a scene needs to be preserved, correct?
Exactly.
And was there any evidence preserved of plane wreckage?
Now, I'm going to tell you, not according to what we were told.
Right.
Again, we were told that they waived the process. There was waivers granted in the process. Like I said, I was trying to get my son's stroller. My son's stroller was like, it looked like somebody had taken it and put it in a ball. And I couldn't even get my son's stroller.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, what's that all about?
Well,
you're going across the processes. You promised us all these things. You said that you were going to remain committed to us. You left us out here pretty much. A lot of us lost our insurance. We was about to lose our job, be medically released from our jobs. And all these promises were made, but nothing was fulfilled. And so really at that point, I really felt like I was left with no other recourse but to file.
All right, we are talking with April Gallop, former high-ranking member of the U.S. military assigned to the Pentagon, present on 9/11, exited the building after being injured in the explosion and saw no signs of a plane wreckage, also observed by many others, including Jamie McIntyre of CNN, whose clip we've played twice so far in this show. It's a fascinating interview. When we come back, we will discuss this matter with her attorney, William Veal, who has filed a complaint against Cheney, Rumsfeld, and Myers, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The complaint is posted on our show notes. Please look at it. It's amazing, and we will be back to continue this fascinating interview with, you're listening to Baldy and the Blonde, sitting in for Glenn Godwin.
Hey, folks, this is Jeff